We're a little bit past 7 o'clock. Before I call the meeting to order tonight, Dan, do you just want to walk us through just a couple of housekeeping items?
I will. Mayor, members of the council, this is our first in-person blended meeting, so bear with me. Hopefully all the technology works. Had a few hiccups in EDA. I'm hopefully got those kinks ironed out for the council. Just so everybody's aware, what I will do tonight is you'll see on the screen in front of you in just a second here the Zoom portion of the meeting. I won't have this up during the whole meeting because it looks like we do not have a lot of participants in on the remote session. But we will be broadcasting these live on YouTube as we have in the past. But moving forward, if we do have anybody participating remotely, they'll be able to participate and you'll see them on the screen in front of you. Other than that, the council chambers will function as it has in the past. Anything that's presented live in the chambers will go on the screen in front of you, or the screen will be blank. One thing to note is that when you speak, make sure you speak into your microphone. We've had some sound issues with a couple of the mics in previous meetings that were broadcast live, so just make sure that you are speaking into your microphone. But other than that, the chamber should function as it has for previous in-person meetings. And welcome back.
Any housekeeping questions for Dan before we get started? All right, with that, I'll call our meeting to order. And Dan, could we have a roll call, please?
Just 1 second. Let me grab the... Bear with me for 1 second. I got to pull out the roll call sheet here.
That's okay.
Councilmember Husnick.
Here.
Councilmember Bystrom.
Here.
Councilmember Monson.
Here.
Councilmember Valento.
Here.
And Mayor Bain.
Here, I'd like to invite everyone to stand and join us for the Pledge of Allegiance. Members of council, you have an agenda before you this evening. I will entertain a motion to approve or any changes.
Mayor Bain, I'll make a motion to approve tonight's agenda.
I'll second.
We have a motion from Councilmember Bystrom and a second from Councilmember Husnick. And Dan, we don't need to do a roll call vote. All of those in favor signal by saying aye.
Aye.
Oppose?
I'll second.
And motion approved. Agenda's approved. Our next item this evening is open forum. Open forum is anybody's opportunity to address council. We ask that you keep your comments to 3 minutes. And do we have any open forum participants tonight? Ron, go ahead. Welcome back, Ron.
Thank you. I guess I got the same old gripe. You just heard the Pledge of Allegiance. The last line is with liberty and justice for all. Well, I came from St. Paul. You've all heard this before. I didn't want to be a city boy anymore. I wanted to be a country boy. So I moved into the township. Then the city decides they're going to annex us. No vote, no privileges at all for us, higher taxes, which we didn't welcome. And I don't know what can be done about it, but shouldn't we have gotten a vote at least? And at least if I'd have lost a vote, I would understand that I was in the wrong. But without a vote, I don't know how the other people felt. So if anybody's got a plausible explanation, please contact me. Thank you.
Thank you, Ron. Any other items for open forum this evening?
I second it.
All right, with that, we'll close open forum and move on to the consent agenda. Council, for your consideration this evening are items 6A through 6G. I will entertain a motion or any changes.
Madam Mayor, I'll make a motion to approve consent agenda items 6A through 6G.
I'll second.
Motion from Councilmember Munson and a second from Councilmember Valento. And all of those in favor signal by saying aye. Aye. Oppose? And consent agenda is approved. Next item this evening is item 7A, the downtown planning update. Dan, we've got a guest this evening. Both Bruce and Rita are here from HKGI, but do you want to do a quick intro to council?
I do. Is Rita still here, Bruce? We have Bruce Chamberlain tonight, who's from HKGI. He's the planner who's involved with our downtown planning that the downtown committee and the EDA are currently going through. He's here tonight to give just an overview, just give council up to speed with the activities to date, and also just an update on the community engagement plan as we start to go into that next phase of downtown planning. So with that, I'll turn it over to Bruce for a brief update on the planning process to date.
All right, thank you, Dan. Again, Bruce Chamberlain with HKGI. I'm an urban designer. My colleague who left at the end of the EDA meeting is Rita Trapp, and she and I are co-coordinating this effort. So we're in the process right now where we're collecting a lot of background information. Those of you who were at the EDA or the downtown committee meeting know that we presented some of that information in a draft form. And we're really launching right now into the stage where we are going to be meeting with downtown businesses, downtown residents, folks who are key stakeholders, property owners within the downtown core, as well as reaching out to folks beyond the community limits who might have interest in Forest Lake. So we're going to be finding the right people to reach in that category as well, who maybe have expressed interest in Forest Lake in the past, and then also engaging with the community. So we now have a web page launched on the EDA site that it does or will soon have a link to the city's webpage as well. So that's one aspect of community engagement, because there is a way for the community to engage directly through that webpage and leave information, answer some simple survey questions as part of that as well. So that's one form of outreach that we're conducting, just beginning to conduct as that launches. We're also beginning the process of in-person engagement through community events. So we'll be attending some upcoming events, and so you'll see our booth and our tent at some of those events, and providing a way both for people to know that this process is happening, as well as to get their feedback early in the process, so we can use that as a basis for us moving forward with the planning effort. I think we're starting to collaborate and coordinate some chamber items as well, so getting involved with them. Made a nice connection with a chamber executive director at the previous meeting, so get that started. And reaching out to other agencies who have interest in Forest Lake as well. So we're trying to cover all of our bases, trying to get as much community engagement and activities within the community as we can underway, and use that as a launch pad really for the rest of the process. So we're early in this effort. We have many more months to go, but we're starting to get our sea legs, so to speak, and beginning to reach out to the community. And if you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them.
Thank you, Bruce. Council, any questions for Bruce or the HKGI team at this time? No action required tonight. Just wanted to give a quick update. They were here for the EDA meeting, so wanted to be able to provide some additional detail. So, perfect. Thank you for.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Council, and next item on the agenda this evening is the Lake Center for Youth and Families contract, and we'll let Chief Peterson kick us off.
Sure. Mayor and City Council members, good evening. I'd like to introduce Lake Center for Youth and Family Executive Director Linda Matson, who has been the Executive Director of Lake Center for approximately 2 years. Previously, she was with the Forest Lake School District for over 30 years, and her last 8 years as the school superintendent. We also have the Lake Center for Youth and Family Purchase of Service Agreement in front of you for your consideration and approval. Staff recommendation is to approve the agreement with just a couple of minor items that our city attorney would like to amend. One is a very small typo, literally getting rid of the plus sign in the agreement, and the other is to verify the insurance coverage. With that, I would like to introduce Executive Director Linda Matson.
Welcome.
Thank you, Chief Peterson. And thank you, Mayor Bain and council members. I'm happy to be here during your first in-person meeting. It's kind of celebratory. I was at the Hugo City Council meeting and it was their first as well. So it's fun to be back together and to engage with people face to face. I'm here this evening to tell you a little bit about Lake Center, a little bit of the history and also the work that we currently do. And to answer any questions, or if you'd like additional information, you can ask me during the presentation. It's certainly fine. Or if I need to get back to you, I certainly will do that. Or if you think of something later on, always feel free to contact me. You have a folder in front of you that has just a couple of pieces in there. And one of them on the right-hand side says celebrating 45 years of serving the community. And some of you may know that Jim Trudeau, who was the Forest Lake Police Chief and also the Washington County Sheriff, was the one 45 years ago that established Lake Center for Youth and Families, or the Youth Service Bureau, back at that time. And his thinking was that we needed to have an agency that really looked at young people who could be in trouble with the law, were minor offenders, but maybe needed some conversation with someone to kind of sort through those things, talk about decision making, et cetera, and not get engaged in the court system. So that's how it started. We still continue that piece today, and I'll speak a little bit more about that. The mission of Lake Center is to ensure the success of youth, adults, and families through programming to meet the ever-changing needs of our community. So some of you may be aware of Lake Center, and you maybe knew it 10 or 15 years ago. Some of the components are the same, but some certainly are different. And we have three main areas of focus, and we've done some strategic planning, and the board has done a very nice job of really focusing in on those three. We're a smaller organization, so we can't be everything to everyone. So we really need to focus to make sure that we don't kind of go beyond our capacity to do a good job within the community. I will say also that Chief Peterson is also a board member on Lake Center's board and is the chair-elect for the organization. So when we look at the three areas, the first one is enrichment. So we have some after-school programming that provides programming for students in grades 4 through 6 free of charge. Happens during the school year, and then this summer is the first time that we are actually having summer programming as well. We've done some work with Forest Lake area schools and doing some partnerships with local businesses, and also with Safety Camp. So some of you maybe know about Safety Camp, your children may have attended, your grandchildren, et cetera, and that is something that we do in conjunction with the city and with other community leaders. Intervention, as I said, is about really students, and it used to be pretty focused to junior high and high school. If there was some issues that they may get in trouble and end up in the court system. Now we go down even to kindergarten through 12th grade for students that either a police department or the county, and we have contracts with Chisago and Washington County to do this work. And what we get the information in, we do an intake with the family, so with the youth as well as with their parents or their caretakers, and talk about what is it that happened, explain it to us, what other issues might be there, and then we have a plan for them. And it might be a course, so if it's tobacco use, it might be the tobacco course. It might be writing an apology letter, it might be community service, it just depends, or it could be a series of those things together. So that is what we started doing and we continue to do today. And then there's counseling. This is relatively new in Lake Center to have the number of counselors that we have. So within the past 3 years, we now are at 4 counselors, and we have a posting for a 5th. We have 18 people on the waiting list, and as do most mental health agencies across the country. We used to focus, again, just on youth, and when I say youth, usually 12 to 18. Now we see children as young as 3 and folks in their 70s and 80s. We see individuals, we see couples, we see families, and we also have groups as well. So, sometimes people will ask, well, what happens when you go to counseling if you're not familiar with that? And really, you can think about it when anyone is going through or a family is going through some transition. And sometimes it's something that's very difficult and you really need help sorting through that. And other times it could be a very happy event, but it still causes stress and you still might want to talk through that and go through that either individually or as a family. So it might be, getting married. It might be, your kids are going off to college. You're empty nesters now. There's all sorts of different things. And then there's, other things that we might be more familiar with some trauma, abuse, etc. So we are busy with counseling, and I think our programming is very strong, and I think we're doing quite well. There are 2 brochures that are in there as well on the left-hand side. They're both about counseling. One is about telehealth. So in March of 2020, we had a 2-year plan about how we might transition to telehealth someday. And that turned into, guess what? In 2 days, we're going to be doing telehealth, so let's all get on the stick and get that done, and we did. We still have 2 full-time counselors that are only doing telehealth because that is what their clients prefer for a number of reasons. It's more convenient. I might be able to do it at my lunch break, during work. I don't have transportation, all sorts of reasons. So those cards are meant to be shared. So you certainly can share them with anyone that might be interested in what that is like. Sometimes people also want to call in and just say, here's what I'm facing. Can I just talk to a counselor to see if I need counseling? Or is it something else? And we certainly can do that as well. So those are, kind of in a nutshell, the 3 areas that we focus on and what we do, and really try to make any determination about if there's something else that we're going to do they fit into those areas? Do we have the capacity? Do we have the ability to work them in? And I would say that probably since I've been executive director, I've probably said no more than yes, and we've taken some things away, again, to really solidify the work that we're doing in the community. So I mentioned 2020, and it was difficult for a lot of people, including Lake Center. It was difficult for us financially, no question. Programmatically a bit, because we had to make those transitions. All of our intakes for intervention, for example, were done remotely as well. But it worked. Sometimes we'd have mom in one place, dad in another, the youth in another place, and then our intervention manager. So it did work well. So as we have gone through that, we didn't have events. Our donations were down a bit. Running Aces, where we have charitable gaming, was closed for 6 months. So all of those things were very difficult. We did get a PPP loan in 2020 and got another one in 2021. And I always say the good news is we got one in 2021. The bad news is we qualified for one in 2021. And you may have seen in the Forest Lake Times that Running Aces is moving to a new nonprofit, and which is certainly their right to do. And so we are finished there on this Thursday. So we are looking for another venue for charitable gambling. And that has been what has also really helped us financially. It's about 20% of our revenue. And so on the opposite side, it talks a little bit about that, and I'm not going to go into great detail with that. But one of the things that is happening with nonprofits is you have to have donations, events, contracts with organizations or with municipalities, et cetera. And you also need to have something that perhaps is not directly linked with the work that you do. And one of the best examples that I heard at a workshop that I really brought this to light for me was one of the organizations that has done this for a long time and does it very well is the Girl Scouts. And what is it they sell? They sell cookies. And that's how they support much of their work, along with many other things as well that they do. So Lake Center, about 7 years ago, decided to go into charitable gambling. So it's pull tabs, it's bingo, it's linked bingo, et cetera. And that has worked very well for us. So we are looking for a new venue as well. You know, we're here to thank you very much for the support that you've given Lake Center. It has been for many years that the city of Forest Lake has supported Lake Center. You know, we're so thankful that Jim Trudeau was thinking about this in this way 45 years ago, to think about this kind of thing, and instead of having youth go into the court system, to have another avenue for them to talk through it. And I think a lot of times people think, you know, these are really severe kinds of things that kids do, and probably each one of us could think back of a situation or two that if we had been caught perhaps, or had been encountered an adult at a particular time, that we would have qualified in the same way. And so, you know, it's with that we just wanted to come and thank you. But to also be, I would say, clear about our need financially. It is a struggle right now financially, and we're working hard in many different ways to make up the deficit that we have and to continue the good work we're doing. The positive thing is that I think our programming is very strong, and we're really set in our vision and what we're doing and how we can help the community. So with that, I am going to open it up if anyone has questions. Oh, and I will say that you also, I have to look down here, October 5th is going to be our taste event. Some of you may have attended that in the past. It usually has been in July, but we were not able to plan it for that because we weren't sure if we could have an in-person event. But it's October 5th. It will be at Uncommon Loon. For those of you that aren't familiar with it, it's a number of restaurants will come, you buy a ticket, you walk around, and then you taste many wonderful foods from our local restaurants. So we're busy talking to them, and we've gotten a very positive response, so we're glad about that. The Frisbee that you have in front of you, you can see it says May of 2020. That's when our taste event was going to be, and of course that got canceled. If you come to the taste event this year, you will get this very Frisbee. And the idea is that you're going to flip it over, and that's going to be your plate. And as you go and collect food, that's what's going to hold all the food that you're going to taste. And so that is October 5th. And then we are planning another end-of-year celebration of our 45th anniversary, to which you will all be invited. And that is going to be December 2nd at Vanelli's. And you'll hear more about that. But just wanted to mention those dates. So with that, as I said, I'm happy to answer questions tonight. If you need more information, I can certainly get that to you. Or if you think of something later on that you have a question about at any time and you want to contact me, please do.
Thank you, Dr. Madsen. Any questions for Dr. Madsen specific to programming? And then we could also direct any questions related to contract to Chief Peterson. Go ahead.
I do, for a comment and a question. First of all, I just want to say I've been intimately familiar with Lake Center for years and years and years, multiple partnerships over the years and other work that I've done, and you just provide an invaluable service to this community. You always have, and I'm just really grateful that you're here. I don't know that if people really understand that this is kind of a unique model in communities. You can't drive through many communities and see this kind of an organization present. And to be able to, you know, keep our kids off of what may be a kind of a bad pathway, right, to intervene early, those are the services that I think are just so incredibly invaluable. I have a question about, you mentioned presenting to the city of Hugo. You talked about partnerships in both Chisago and Washington County. What percentage of the youth and families, youth, adult, and families you serve, what percentage is from Forest Lake?
So I won't be able to give you that off the top of my head, but I'm happy to send it to you.
Okay.
I'm happy to send that information to you, and we can break it down by the 3 areas.
Okay.
And also, we can give it to you in duplicated and unduplicated counts. So for example, the number of Forest Lake residents that participate in counseling, we can give you here as the number, but then we can also give you the duplicated count, which would mean then, because usually counseling is more than one time. So some people might be there for 4 or 5 times. Some people, it is part of their mental health plan to connect with a therapist for many years. So we can give you both those counts.
Well, part of my curiosity in that is, when I look at this contract, I don't believe we have seen an increase in this dollar amount from the city of Forest Lake for years, if I'm not mistaken about that. And I just would like to try to have an opportunity to re-examine this. I think we're pretty locked in probably for this year, but I think we're heading into budget season, and it might be a good idea for us to take a look at it, you know, just to see if we just want to be sure we're meeting the needs of our community. You're saving us taxpayer dollars by keeping kids out of the courts. And so I think it's a great opportunity for us to take a harder look at it.
Yeah.
So that's all.
Other questions for either Dr. Madsen or Chief Peterson? So any questions? I looked at, when I was reviewing the contract, and I had a very similar reaction to Councilmember Bystrom of, I haven't seen this number move in many years, and seeing the recent press around what's, happening with potential future, and I think the headline was Lake Center for Youth and Families might close. Knowing what you do for juvenile diversion and early intervention, are we doing enough, and from a city perspective, to support? And it feels like we've gotten a great deal over the years, and I appreciate that, but you also are saving us from future interventions. And so I had a very similar reaction of, given where you are as an organization, I support the contract tonight, and I want us to approve the contract tonight to just have that continuity, but I also support future conversation around what are the services provided and the value of those services, and I'm open to a future amendment to what might that look like.
The other thing I would mention too, Mayor Bain, is that with counseling, of course, we have, set fees, and we bill insurance, and we
Yep.
bill secondary insurance, and we do all of that. We have a grant through Anoka County that serves all of the Forest Lake School District, so every school in the district, for underinsured, uninsured, and high deductible families. So if they can't afford that because of one of those 3 reasons, then we are able to cover those costs. The other thing, though, is that there are some people that come in that can't afford it, or they can afford, if the cost is $100 a session, they can afford 10. We don't turn anyone away. And so we have, there's, a number of dollars that we expend because people can't afford to come in, but we view it as being very important to take away that barrier of cost. And I think with counseling, we're taking away more barriers by keeping telehealth as an option, but by also saying we have a sliding scale, we have this grant, we can bill your insurance, but if all those things don't happen, you're still going to be able to come in.
And I believe, and this is where, I support our contract tonight, and I think they will require some additional conversation at the staff level of what that future might look like. There are services you provide that are incredibly valuable to the community, but it's not a standard program area for the city of Forest Lake. But there is also services you are providing, in particular juvenile diversion and early intervention, that is absolutely what we need to support. And I'm just wondering if we've valued that appropriately as a city over time, and if there's an opportunity to look at that again, especially considering your financial model may have to make some changes. And we've been pioneers on doing this work for 45 years, and I'd just like to see that continue.
Madam Mayor, I just want to say that I've always supported this program verbally or whatever, conversation, whatever. It's really important work, and I certainly support this, this contract that's coming up, and I do support the ideas that this conversation could keep moving forward. So, I don't know if Hannah wanted to say anything or not, otherwise I'd be ready for a motion.
Maybe a motion first, and we'll have opportunity for discussion.
Okay. I make a motion that we approve the contract as written and as of today's date, and to be paid no later than July 30th, 2021.
I'll happily second that.
The motion and a second, just a quick, Pete's got his hand up. Go ahead, Pete.
Your Honor, members of council, as Chief Peterson mentioned, there's a little bit of cleanup of nits on the contract. So if council would be willing to consider amending that motion to be subject to minor modifications approved by the city attorney, we can clean it up and make it go.
I'd be happy to make that amendment, that we will give an opportunity to clean up the contract as needed and move forward with it.
My second stands.
Amended motion and a second is on the amendment. Any further discussion on this item? All right, hearing none. All of those in favor signal by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Oppose? And motion carries. Thank you so much for being here.
Yeah, thank you.
Next item on the agenda this evening is item 7C, the 2020 audit presentation. And Sandy, I think you're going to kick us off this tonight?
Yes, hopefully you can hear me. I don't have to
Yes,
press
hear you good.
anything. Okay. As a requirement, we, of course, like everybody else, is required to have an external audit. And we also are required by June 30th to bring it to the council for approval and have it approved by June 30th. So we have Jacqueline Knowles from KDV Bergen, who's our Bergen KDV, who is with us tonight, who's going to do the presentation of the results of the audit, as well as some other information, financial information for you to review. So with that, I'd like to introduce Jackie Knowles.
You have it on your computer? Yeah, if you want to hook it up to there, I can get it on the screen.
While we're doing that, we could move on to, we've got a very short, disregard. I was, short agenda item we could take care of, but let's not get out of sequence.
So maybe just plug it into that. Do you have an HDMI port?
Okay, there it is. We're finance people, not technical people.
Understood.
We're all a bit rusty.
Welcome.
Thank you. Good evening, Mayor Bain and Council. My name is Jackie Knowles, as Sandy mentioned, from Bergen KDV. And tonight I'm going to be going over a summary of the results of our 2020 audit. So the main purpose of our audit is to offer the city our independent auditor's report. In that report, we state that management is responsible for the financial statements, the numbers and the amounts in those statements, and our responsibility is to test those amounts and express an opinion on the financial statements. And this year, we're able to offer an unmodified opinion or a clean opinion. It's the best that we're able to give. What that means is it provides assurance that the financial statements are presented fairly in all material respects. A couple other pieces of our audit this year. As always, we are required by the Office of the State Auditor to test for compliance with certain state statutes. and we had no legal compliance findings. We did have 2 internal control findings as a result of our audit procedures. The first one, there were some audit adjustments made to ensure that the financial statements were presented fairly, as well as one prior period adjustment was made to reduce net position for some construction in progress, removing that from the city's books. And that was made as a result of a reevaluation of the city's capital asset policy and also the scope of a road project that was done. With this particular road project, it was determined that it should be expensed as repairs and maintenance in accordance with the city's policy and not capitalized. Because of the large amount of the project, about $1.6 million, it needed to be recorded as a prior period adjustment. And then finally, because of the large amount of federal funding received by the city this year, we did need to audit 2 federal programs. The first was the Coronavirus Relief Funds, and the second was the Highway Planning and Construction Grant, which was used on the Trunk Highway 97 project. And both of those programs checked out, no findings to report. So then we'll move on to the financial results for 2020. So first up, the general funds budget. Revenue was projected to be about $9.8 million, with matching expenditures authorized at $9.8 million, so a balanced budget. And then actual results for the year. Total revenue of about $11.2 million, so coming in about $1.4 million over budget. And we'll see a graph shortly that reports all of this, but that was within the intergovernmental category, so the receipt of those coronavirus relief funds. And then total expenditures were about $10.9 million, so about $1.1 million over budget. And again, that was the spending of the coronavirus relief funds within the public safety and economic development programs. So as a result of 2020 activity, general fund balance increased about $294,000. So this first graph looks at that fund balance. So I had mentioned it went up in 2020 about $294,000. You can see the components or the pieces of fund balance, and the majority of your fund balance is in the unassigned category, so it's available for spending on any purpose. And when we look at that amount, we like to look at it in accordance with the city's fund balance policy. So that $6 million figure is about 60% of what you budgeted for 2021 activity. So that is in compliance with your policy of 50%. Looking at your revenue detail, here you can see that big impact the coronavirus relief funds had on the general fund revenues. So general fund revenues were up about $1.43 million, and about $1.4 million of that was the coronavirus relief funds. The property tax levy for the general fund was up slightly, and then a couple categories of revenues that were down a little bit were charges for services and licenses and permits, and that was due to decreased building activity. So building permit revenue and plan check fees were down a little bit in 2020. Looking at the allocation, here you can see intergovernmental revenue was 18% of revenues in the general fund in 2020, and that was just 6% in 2019. So again, the big impact of those coronavirus relief funds. And here's a more detailed view of the budget to actual results. So again, every source of revenue very consistent with what was budgeted except for intergovernmental. And then moving on to expenditures, big jump in 2020, again with the spending of those coronavirus relief funds. The spending of those funds was within the economic development category, the $300,000 that was moved to the EDA and then spent out of there, and then the rest of it was categorized as public safety. And then further contributing to the public safety increase was personnel cost increases for police. You can see those changes that I just mentioned reflected here in the allocation of spending. Public safety was at 62% compared to 60% in 2019, and then economic development was 4% compared to 2% in 2019. And budget to actual results reflect everything that we've discussed. So again, most programs consistent with what was budgeted, with the exceptions being public safety and economic development with the spending of the coronavirus funds. And then moving on to your enterprise funds, first up is the water fund, and revenues were up in 2020 as a result of increased rates and increased usage. Operating expenses were down a little bit in 2020, and if you look back to 2019, that was a high year, the peak year of operating expenses because of a number of water main breaks and then the necessary repair costs in 2019. And then in the sewer fund, increase in revenues due to an increase in rates, an increase in operating expenses due to an increase in personnel costs. So more people allocated to the fund, or I should say a higher percentage of their wages allocated to the fund, the hiring of an additional employee in 2020, and then increased health insurance costs as well. Operating income in the sewer fund of about $87,000 in 2020. And then our final graph takes a look at tax capacity, levy, and rates over the last 5 years. You can see that the tax capacity has gone up quite a bit over the last 5 years, increasing at a higher rate than the levy, which results in your tax capacity rate coming down overall over the last 5 years. And that concludes my presentation. I can take any questions.
Thank you, Jackie. Council, questions for Jackie? And otherwise, I believe the requested action for this evening is to approve the 2020 budget, is that, or the 2020 audit.
Yeah.
Any questions this evening? No questions.
Sounds like we were kind
No
of.
questions here. It's, with the coronavirus and the pandemic.
I felt like I
Your
said that 100
presentation
times.
is probably very similar municipality to municipality, but it's also good to see that it's just as expected, and it's good to see the results. So thank you for being here this
All right.
evening. Council will entertain a motion if you're ready.
Madam Mayor, I'll make a motion to approve the 2020 audit.
I'll second.
Motion from Councilmember Munson and a second from Councilmember Valento. Any further discussion on this item? Hearing none, all those in favor signal by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Oppose, and motion carries. Again, thank you so much. Council, the next item on our agenda this evening is item 7D, which is Resolution 628-2102, which is the 2021-2022 Sanitary Sewer Lining Project Award Recommendation. And Ryan.
Mayor, City Council, within your packet is the bid results and project award recommendation for the 2021-22 Sanitary Sewer Lining Project. On June 17, 2021, we received 6 bids. Low bid, In Situ Form Technologies USA LLC, with a low bid of $399,403.60. It's our recommendation to award the project to them. That is below the engineer's estimate, so we are working with Public Works to add some additional lineal foot to the project, which would come forward at a future city council meeting with the change order once that final area is determined. So if there's not any questions tonight, our recommendation is to award the 2021-22 Sanitary Sewer Lining Project to In Situ Form Technologies USA LLC in the amount of $399,403.60.
Thank you,
Ryan, how well, one of the questions I always have on these low bids, you must feel comfortable with the company. I mean, have you worked with them before and that kind of thing?
Done a lot of work's been done in the area with In Situ Form. S.J. Lewis is a newer company coming into the area. Vite and Company's done a lot of work. I have not heard of Granite Inliner. SAC Construction's they're all over the place.
Okay.
Visual Sewer, I'm surprised how high they were. Do you know why they were so high? I don't know if they were just overloaded, but I mean,
Sure.
typically they're pretty competitive.
Well, the numbers sound good, so.
Council, any further questions for Ryan this evening? Otherwise, our resolution is on page 325 of your packet.
Mayor Bain, I make a motion to adopt Resolution 06-28-21-01 as outlined by Engineer Goodman.
I'll second it.
Motion from Councilmember Byström and a second from Councilmember Husnick. Any further discussion this evening? Seeing none, all those in favor signal by saying aye.
Aye.
Oppose, and motion carries. Our next item this evening is Resolution 06282102, donations from the 2020 Forest Lake Safety Camp applied to the 2021 Forest Lake Safety Camp. And Chief Peterson.
Yeah, Mayor and City Council members, the first item I have for you is a resolution accepting donations made to support the 2020 Forest Lake Safety Camp. As you know, the camp was canceled in 2020 due to the pandemic, and we contacted the donors and inquired whether they wanted a refund of their donations. Each of the donors listed in your packet stated they wanted us to keep their donations and put it towards the 2021 Forest Lake Safety Camp. And if it's all right with you, I'd like to take a minute and thank each one of those donors publicly. A big thank you to A-Team Construction, Andrew Hegstead, Bell Bank, Dan's Towing and Recovery, the Drosen Family Foundation, Faith Lutheran Church, First State Bank of Wyoming, the Forest Lake Rotary Club, Friar Tuck's Pub and Grill, G2 Dental, the Hallberg Family Foundation, Hosanna Lutheran Church, Landmark Insurance Services, La Grande Salon, Old Log Cabin, Thomas S. Turry, Tomco Carpet, Tired Iron Collision Center, and Winnick Supply. Staff recommendation is to accept these funds with gratitude.
Thank you, Chief. With that, I would make a motion that we approve Resolution 06282103, the donations. I'm sorry, I'm on the wrong one. Resolution 06282102, resolution accepting donations as described by Chief Peterson with gratitude.
I'll second.
Motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signal by saying aye.
Aye.
Oppose, and motion carries. Next item this evening is Resolution 06282103, resolution accepting donations for the 2021 Forest Lake Safety Camp. Chief Peterson.
Yep, this resolution is to accept donations to support our 2021 Forest Lake Safety Camp. I would also like to take a minute and publicly thank those donors for their generous donations. Thank you to Customized Safety Training, Faith Lutheran Church, G2 Dental, Grace Alliance Church, Andrew Hegstead, Maranatha Assembly, Matson Funeral Home, Olson Sewer and Excavating, Dave Pasnick, Rapid Press Printing, SF Insurance Group, Tomco Carpet, Tired Iron Collision Center, Whitaker Buick, and Winnick Supply. If it wasn't for these generous donations, we could never hold the Forest Lake Safety Camp and educate these kids in safety in all shapes and forms. So I really do appreciate the donations, and staff recommendation is to accept these funds with gratitude.
With that, I motion we accept Resolution 06282103 as described by Chief Peterson with gratitude. Is there a
I'll second.
motion and a second from Councilmember Byström? All those in favor signal by saying aye.
Aye.
Oppose? Motion carries. That concludes our regular agenda items this evening. Council, we did have one item for discussion, which is a memo in your packet related to redistricting information and polling locations. This is a miss on my part in that Karen is running point for this from a staff perspective and had requested that we move this to a future agenda so that she is able to be here for that discussion. So note that the information is in your packet, it's available, but we will bring it back for discussion when she's able to participate in that. She has most of the answers, and there isn't anything time pressing that requires any further staff direction right immediately, so we can bring that back in July. Because that is not an official action item, I don't think we need to technically table it. Pete, correct me if I'm wrong.
Your Honor, you're correct.
All right. So we can move on to staff updates this evening. Staff updates, let's start with Patrick and move to Dan, and then we'll just go right down the line, if that's okay.
Members of the City Council, I would like to set a date for budget priority discussion. We need to start working on the 2021 budget, and the earlier the council gives us a clue on what might be a priority for next year, the better. So if we can schedule that for the 12th or the 19th, that would be great. That way we can start working on the budget and have it ready for close to the end of August. Also on July 19th, we will be meeting in closed session with the labor attorney. We have 3 contracts this year that need to be negotiated, AFSCME, MAPE, and the 49ers. The labor attorney will be here in closed session to discuss those contracts and the direction, and hopefully get some direction from staff and from the council. So that'll be on the 19th as well. And then finally, the only other thing is that, and Ryan can follow up, is the governor signed the transportation bill. We were concerned about that they might shut down, but it's been signed, so we will not have to worry about loss of any funds for the next year. So that's all I have.
Quick feedback for Patrick on budget priority discussion. Do you have a preference of days? Both of those days are regular council. One's a council meeting, one's a workshop.
Correct. I do not have a preference. I have a preference of, well, I do actually. The earlier the better, so the 12th, if you have some ideas of what kind of issues that you may be wanting us to look at. For example, tonight's discussion regarding the contract that you passed, if you want us to look at something like that, or are there any other issues regarding that, services or spending or anything like that, like to have, if you want to send them to me earlier through email, you can do that, or stop by. But the earlier we know, the better off we can prepare and put the package together for you. Staff will be starting to work on their budgets after the 4th of July holiday. And then, again, once we also talk to the labor attorney, that'll give us some guidance on what we're going to do there.
I would recommend, if staff's able to support at least a foundation of information in the packet, that we at least include an initial workshop, a working session on the agenda for the 12th, and then also plan to use agenda time on the 19th. It's always a little tough to tell how much agenda time is going to be needed for regular items on the 12th, but if at least we could start the discussion and then circle back on the 19th for anything that's still open or additional follow-up items, that would be my preference, but I'm open to feedback from council.
Any vacations coming up?
That is also good to consider. So any other vacation times as well that may be coming up this month? as
Mayor
well?
Bain will also be out of town on the 19th.
Sounds like the 19th is, so let's definitely aim for the 12th, and we'll get
Okay.
through as much as we can. And then that means we circle back on the second regular council meeting in July and follow up, because it sounds like the 19th is going to not be great for consensus, and that's fine. This is the season for vacations. It's better now than in December when we need to pass a budget.
I mean, unless we'd want to shift it to a different night. I mean, if it's that important, that would be.
Let's maybe plan for the 12th and then send, if maybe council members could send kind of vacation times and dates that don't work to Patrick, then we can kind of work on calendaring a second session if needed.
Yeah, and if we need to, we can also take a discussion item on the 26th or continue it to the 26th when people are back. As long as we start it, I mean, it's really staff trying to get an idea what the council is interested in as far as the 2021 budget, if there's ideas for increases or changes in structure, that's what we need to know.
Any other questions for Patrick? All right, let's go to Dan, and then we'll go to Pete after Dan.
Mayor, members of the council, just want to report that the blended meeting is working. The Zoom feed has been going out, no issue. Just as we're in this blended environment, we'll continue to stream the meetings on YouTube rather than the IQM2. That seems to be a little bit more stable of a platform. If you recall back when we were in person, we had some issues with our streaming appliance crashing a little bit, and it's since I've talked to the company that they actually no longer support that model anymore, so we're sort of on outdated technology. So this YouTube stream right now is more stable, so we'll continue to stream meetings on the YouTube channel. And then to piggyback off what the Bruce from HKGI said about the public engagement for the downtown plan, he mentioned that the website is up and running. We'll get a link on the city's webpage as well. It's currently, the feedback page is currently housed on the EDA site. It offered a little bit more capabilities in terms of iframing, some of the feedback tools that HKGI uses on that page. But we'll make sure that's on the city's webpage and goes out through all the communication channels as we get that ready to roll out. And talking to Rita, who's kind of running point on the engagement side, there's gonna be a kind of a big push after the 4th of July. So it's sort of all in the wings, ready to go. So after the 4th of July, look for a lot of information to go out both digitally and in person for the downtown plan. And with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions you may have.
And just clarification, the EDA site is the investinforestlake.com,
Correct, yep, that is the site.
and there is a downtown planning tab at the top of that site if anyone wanted to take a look at the resources that will be released or are released, just not widely publicized yet.
Yeah, they're out now. We're just looking to get some start getting some feedback on it, but it'll be a kind of the full court press here after the 4th of July.
Thank you, Dan. Pete, and then we'll go to Chief Peterson after Pete.
Your Honor, members of council, I don't have any update for you this evening, but I'm happy to take questions.
Repeat this evening. All right. Chief Peterson and then Ryan.
Yeah, Mayor and City Council members, the only update I have for you this evening is with the July 4th celebration and festivities coming up this weekend. I want to let you know that the Forest Lake Police Department, Fire Department, and Public Works are prepared for a very safe event. And I want to advise the community to stay safe, both on land and on water. And I want to wish everybody a happy 4th.
Thanks, Chief Peterson. Any questions for Chief this evening? All right, Ryan and then Dave.
Mayor, City Council, I'll just give you a brief update on the local street improvement project. With the hot, dry weather we've had, construction's gone very fast. We've been able to finish both lifts on Keystone, 190th, July, and 180th. The base course is already done on Floral Bay and Iden Avenue North. We're waiting to start 5th Avenue after the 4th of July, just so we don't have anything torn up. Obviously, that's in an area that's gonna have a lot of foot traffic. And then our other area is Goodview and 210th by the school, but we're trying to work with their current project. Obviously, they have a lot of trucking coming in and out of there, so we're potentially going to start some trail work in that area this week, but then we wouldn't come back to do any of the road work until middle of August, just to try to avoid any construction activity they got going on. We have completed the double chip seal project, so that's completed. We do have scheduled on a subdivision that you guys previously approved, Forest Lake Preserve. We have a grading pre-con July 7th, and we'll be talking about some dates on the actual site work pre-construction meeting coming here soon. So come into July, August, they'll start installing utilities out there and, road in September, and potentially already start building by October-ish, maybe November, if things go well and fast and weather allows. So that's what I got for some of the major projects. Oh, and then if some of you weren't aware of any of the emails or social media, MnDOT did complete a repair on the southbound on the roundabout there, where the two different types of pavement meets. With the hot weather that we've had, sometimes that buckles and moves, and they had to come in there and do a kind of emergency repair, but we're able to complete that within 1 working day, so that went well. And I think it was well notified too. So without any questions you guys might have.
Thank you, Ryan. Any questions for Ryan this evening?
Feels like the hot seat, so I'm
I
ready
know.
for some questions.
Nice testimony.
I don't like it, though.
It is good.
I do.
Yes.
Great.
Dave and then Sandy.
No updates this evening.
All right. Any questions for Dave tonight? All right.
Fenway,
Fenway?
yeah.
We got it graded last week when we got that rain, and then we'll be out again tomorrow grading all the gravel. So
Yeah,
it's
that-
On Fenway?
Yeah,
on Fenway and all the gravels, we'll be out for the next few days now that we got enough moisture, so.
yeah, okay. Yeah, that's been the phone calls I've been getting.
Yep.
And I, to try to explain why it doesn't gel sometimes, being it's been so hot and dry, they can't grade it, just turns to talcum powder, and what do, so. Anyways, thanks.
Yep, and like the residents that call me too, I say, I mean, we're not out there to make it worse, you know.
Yeah.
It may seem worse now, but if we go out there, we're gonna make it even worse than that, so. But this moisture will be perfect for getting out there and smoothing everything out, so.
Andy?
Just a reminder that this will be the last quarter that our third-party billing will be done through utility billing. So in July, you'll get the last one from Opus, and we will be live as of July 27th. So just a reminder, you'll hopefully see some communications here in the future, here, near future.
Fabulous.
Wonderful.
Fantastic.
That's a nice milestone.
Yes.
It is. Yeah,
Yes.
still a lot more work to do, but we'll get there.
Yeah. Still need to get through transition.
Just to add into that too, we just did reads for after our meter project, we read 99%. So out of the almost 5,000 meters, we didn't read 39. And some of them are just dead batteries and ones that we might have to go back to. So that was a huge success. You're trying to get at about 90%, and we got 99%, so that was a very good read.
We have an updated council, but maybe just to circle back on, kudos to you and your staff for getting all of the meters changed out. And we had approved, you know, the water shut off, which nobody wants to do.
Right.
And as it turns out, I don't think we had anybody with water shut off, and
No,
those have all been.
no water shut off, so sometimes just a little help to get them motivated to get that done. So through this whole project, no one's water was shut down. Our last one was done last week. It was underneath the toilet in a crawl space, and I had one guy on one side of the toilet, one guy on the other side of the toilet.
Oh, boy.
Changing, they cut a hole in the floor. But I mean, that was our last one left. I mean, that's kind of the extent we were going to get these last ones in, so.
Yeah.
Wow. Well, it's nice to get that project closed out.
Yes,
So
it is. And then
kudos to your team.
Then to see that everything read so greatly too, makes it all worth the while, so.
Excellent. Any other questions from staff? And do we have any staff participating remotely that should?
We have Jackie. I can pull her up on the screen here.
Hey, Jackie.
Hi. I have no updates this evening.
You look great on screen, and I love your cat in the background.
Thank you.
Any questions for Jackie? Any questions for Jackie this evening? If nothing else, it's a nice test of the remote participation. So actually, talk a little bit,
Really good
just say a couple more things, just not to put you on the spot, but I'm going to test out the audio.
That's fine. Actually, I had listened to the Parks meeting and it was really hard to hear, and I can hear all of you great tonight, so it's working really well.
Fabulous.
There
Good.
There were some mic adjustments that I found that had not been made, so I made them for this meeting, so I think
Excellent.
that solved the issue.
Perfect.
Good. Perfect. Well, thank you for being here. All right, with that, we will transition to council updates. Let's just go right up the line. We'll skip, I'll go last, but if we just want to go right up the line, starting with Councilmember Munson.
No updates this evening.
Councilmember Byström.
No updates for me, but just a thanks to city staff for their incredible work over the course of this last year.
Yeah.
I mean, it's been a challenge, and it's nice to be back, so,
In 3D.
in 3D.
Councilmember Husnick.
I attended the EDA meeting before this council meeting, and you folks, everyone heard the, kind of the breakdown of what was talked about tonight, and, because we're trying to get some things done in the downtown area, and other than that, I don't have any other further updates, so.
Councilmember Valento.
No updates for me.
I also don't have any updates tonight other than to just wish everybody a very safe and happy 4th of July. And it's great to have this first in-person meeting. It feels a little bit like the first day of school. And we're beyond that and look forward to seeing everybody next meeting in person again. So thank you. And with that, I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
The motion and dealer's choice on second. We'll go with Councilmember Byström. All those in favor signal by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? And we're adjourned.